Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, The ERP Automation Dilemma, Procure to Pay with Parametrics and ProcessMaker. First, I'd like to introduce you to today's panelists, Freddie Mercado and Sriram Mellarkoti. Sriram Mellarkoti is the digital transformation leader at Parametrics. Sriram has over 2 decades of work experience across business solution functions. He has previously worked in technology leadership positions at BFSI giants like Edelweiss, Reliance Capital, and ECGC. He currently runs a center of excellence bringing together RPA, AI, and BPM. Sriram comes with significant experience in digital transformation using cutting edge technologies like AI, mobility, cloud, and IoT. He has also launched initiatives and programs on digital innovation, specifically engaging the university student community, and is regular to roundtables and think tanks. Freddie Mercado is the managing director for the Global Partner Program at ProcessMaker. With a long career in technology solutions development and deployment, Freddie brings years of experience to enable ProcessMaker partners to build value with our platform. His current duties include the Global Partner Program, developing an effective community of BPM savvy companies over 5 continents, as well as overseeing the training department at ProcessMaker. Freddie's path as a university professor, as well as his experience in the mobile and cloud technology fields, have allowed him to build a set of skills to drive digital transformation projects for startups as well as for enterprise level businesses. Thank you both for being on today's webinar.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here and to take everyone through Procure to Pay. Indeed, something we believe is a need of the hour solution for concerns across the globe. Let me begin by introducing Parametrics. We are a 16-year-old organization that started out with a focus on the banking and financial services domain, but have since diversified to multiple domains ranging from manufacturing to retail to logistics to sports to entertainment to fintech startups to online aggregators and what have you. Over the last couple of years, Parametrics has carved out technologies around automation and created a center of excellence, bringing together tools and technologies around the spaces of robotic process automation, business process management, artificial intelligence, optical character recognition, and document management systems. We have carried out extensive research across multiple tools in these areas, as you can see in the slide. With ProcessMaker, Parametrics has actually made pioneering steps in adopting version 4.0 to the extent that the whole solution that we built around Procure to Pay has been built on the 4.0 base. On the RPA side, we have partnerships and deep skills across Automation Anywhere, UiPath, and RoboWorks, so much so that we are able to recommend the right tool for the right need. Smart Talks that you see there is a document management plus platform. On the OCR space, there is significant research done across tools mentioned here in the slide, ranging from Google Vision API to Abby to Tesseract to Amazon Textract and so on and so forth. Further, what we've gone and done is we've built machine learning algorithms that leverage these tools to present what we would call genuinely self-improving solutions. Now, automating P2P or Procure to Pay is what we believe is the right decision, but choosing the right partner is just as important. And we believe Parametrics is the right partner because with Parametrics implementation actually takes weeks and not months. It's extremely easy to use and you get the most bang for the buck. Parametrics has a revolutionary intelligent modular framework approach, which makes implementation of automated P2P simple and quite stress-free. And there is no need to tie up large project teams for longer periods of time. The complete P2P process is delivered in line with best practices, and it's fully integrated with any of maybe hundreds of ERP systems that you might be using. A quick look at our marquee clients. For 16 plus years, leading companies across domains have chosen parametrics, and we pride ourselves in being optimally sized to ensure that management bandwidth is available for each engagement, and the effect shows in our referenceability. And now to introduce the ProcessMaker platform, I would hand it over to Freddie Mercado.
Thank you, Sri. Appreciate the opportunity on behalf of ProcessMaker to share this virtual space with our partner Parametrics and with you as well. It's always a delight to have the opportunity to showcase ProcessMaker's value proposition. As you may already know in the audience, ProcessMaker is one of the leading ProcessMaker automation platforms in the market. Our solution and value proposition is enabling companies to deploy quick processes with as little hassle as possible in order to take on challenges presented by different market forces come into play. The main advantages of our solution have to do with the ease of deployment that reflect in a short time to deliver solutions by enabling an array of tools and features that make it easy for developers and business architects to bring together processes that companies appreciate in the way that they engage with their customer base. If you're looking to accelerate your digital transformation, ProcessMaker will be the platform of choice given the simplicity of our approach while enabling enough complexity for most challenges to be taken care of immediately. And with that, one of the added benefits is the ability to be environmentally sensitive by going paperless and saving a number of resources that were typical to other technologies and legacy solutions in place. Likely, ProcessMaker has been in business for close to 20 years. And our activity has taken us all over the world by having partners and customers in all 5 continents. Our company has 4 local offices with our headquarters based out of Durham, North Carolina in the United States, as well as offices in Latin America and Europe. Our network of partners spans all 5 continents with a number of specialized solution propositions such as the one that Parametrics is bringing to the table today. We're happy to be the platform that they are using to deliver this business solution for customers worldwide. In the process of building value, our company has achieved a number of market recognitions, and these are just some of the latest awards and achievements that the ProcessMaker brand has collected. And I would say that some of them are equivalent to other prestigious awards in other markets, but significantly, it is the Cody Award, among others, one of the most successful ones that makes us very proud to present today. The ProcessMaker solution brings about a number of components that would allow any company to tackle process automation challenges. The ability to reflect a process design or process map into a canvas where the BPMN components are reflected is just the starting point. A highly customizable forms designer that allows customers to create a seamless customer experience by deploying their own vision of what a form should contain, as well as the ability to create a personalized customer experience, makes our designer one of the most powerful elements in our platform. Of course, bringing about logic has to do with some programming skills to enable rules and validations that would transfer the logic of your business into this process that you are automating. Some of it is achieved within the ProcessMaker platform itself, and some may have the need to create an integration through our powerful REST API layer for third-party elements to take play into the solution. In the end, it's all about information consumption that becomes actionable data through dashboards and reports that our customers and decision makers will appreciate, given the flexibility of these reporting tools that would allow the most sensitive information to reach the needed parties on a timely basis. The infrastructure where the solution rests relies on the Amazon technology offer that has a global reach, is by far one of the most popular cloud solutions available today. So ProcessMaker has taken to leverage this technology in order to enable the features that make our combination of technology stack as well as the product that we have built together very valuable to customers and partners in a global scale. Let me hand it over to you, Sri, so you can start showing the P2p process that you have put together.
All right. So while we talk about our experience as to why organizations should look at automating the P2p process, but before that, what we would like to do is express that as we embarked upon this journey, it was with an intent to solve not just the transactional aspect or the organizational pain points, but also how organizations can use our P2P solution to build and strengthen collaboration and also improve the entire partnering approach with their stakeholders, which includes both vendors and internal stakeholders. As we know, Procure to Pay is a critical financial process in any organization, and it controls how a company buys goods and services, manages the resulting invoices, pays its suppliers, and ensures all spend is fully visible. We've seen organizations using manual methods experience higher rates of process errors and face limited visibility into the status of orders and payments, and they have limited insight into and control over the spend. Usually, we've seen that the manual P2P processes are inefficient and costly, especially when they are segmented and not integrated into one system. They are also prone to error and unwanted spend. Most notably, manual P2P processes mean high hard costs as well as high soft costs for organizations, whether to support the labor necessary for operations or to maintain current processes or even address errors. With Parametrics' ProcessMaker-based P2P solution, organizations can implement a P2P solution, maximize the ROI for their software, and optimize their P2P operations. So firstly, we would like to specify that modernizing a P2P process does not exactly mean that a full ERP replacement is needed. It can easily be achieved by leveraging intelligent automation to streamline the process of a company buying and paying for goods and services. Organizations that have successfully modernized their P2P process are experiencing significant benefits. However, at the same time, there are many organizations who are not keen on adopting automation with regards to their P2P process, as it may incur additional investment in terms of license fees required for purchasing OTB automation modules, which are shipped by leading ERP solutions from industry leaders like SAP or Oracle or Microsoft and so on and so forth. Leading ERP solutions do comprise of different automation modules, which include procure to pay, invoice processing, financials, retail, and so on. However, these modules are offered at a higher premium. And furthermore, considerable time and effort is necessary to successfully implement legacy procurement modules, and that can lead to excessive project and professional services costs. And quite often, to mitigate this very ERP automation dilemma, clients end up outsourcing the underlying process, which, by the way, can be a resourcing solution. However, a lot of times clients end up making the mistake of outsourcing a problem also. So basically, they end up shipping the baby along with the bathwater, which is a mistake because the moment you as a service provider ship out a service recipient, ship out the problem, it's very difficult to then have a successful outcome. So as we speak, manual P2P processes are being rapidly replaced by smart automation, and we've seen that the results are quite transformative. Some of the key benefits of P2P framework that we present are that slow payment cycles can be avoided, which usually may result in poor vendor relations and also further lead to losing early payment discount opportunities, and on the other hand, incurring late payment penalties sometimes. Using the ProcessMaker 4.0 workflow engine, invoices can be routed for approval, thus saving the staff from manually chasing people. 80% of invoices on average are successfully matched 3 ways. So the AP team or the accounts payables team only handles invoices with exceptions. This also gives back more person hours to the organization, allowing employees to focus on more high-value activities. One of the other key features of P2P framework is the dynamic process map, which allows finance leaders visibility into their finance process, which also helps in identifying whether each purchase order was fulfilled and received. By automating the P2P process using Parametrics P2P framework, a finance leader can manage the entire P2P process on one system with one single interface. In addition to these benefits, the risk of human error is also dramatically decreased. Let's say in case where the process is fully automated, human error is almost eradicated entirely. And what are some of those well-known examples of human error within an unautomated P2P process? These would include duplicate invoicing or paying an incorrect amount or paying the invoice to an incorrect supplier. So broadly, by adopting Parametrics P2P framework, organizations can significantly cut costs. They can enhance productivity. They end up shortening their payment cycles and also improve supplier relationships as a result of that. Also, in addition to this entire package is the mobility solution. Through the mobile interface, suppliers are able to transact on the portal while they are on the move. This feature would basically help internal stakeholders too. For example, in a projects business where at any given point in time, a client may have multiple active projects across the country. A lot of their project managers otherwise would have to come back to an office to do approvals of, let's say, whatever material they have inspected and so on and so forth. Now, through the parametrics P2P solution, they will not be bound to any one single place. So broadly, the booking time can be reduced significantly, which results in reduced processing cost. Let me at this stage invite my colleague Rahul to take you through this next section on the components of the P2P framework, as well as an overview of the technologies and tools used. Post that, we will quickly run through a video of the solution in action. Rahul, over to you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Sriram. So before I actually talk about the different components about the P2P framework, I would like to speak a bit about the approach which we've taken here whilst developing this particular framework, which is also part of our long-term strategy. It is primarily to present a fully modular solution, which can be aligned to multiple moving parts of a standard P2P process. More importantly, we also wanted to solve the underlying complexity of P2P process in a manner that clients can probably scale up their businesses and the entire ecosystem of their vendors without having to revisit design process every 2 or 3 years. So let's quickly take a look at some of the key components of the P2P framework. So to start with, we have the intelligent procurement module, which ensures that an organization is always in full control of company spend from the start to the end of that particular process. This model primarily helps finance leaders to create a predefined catalogs and also have approved vendors assigned to that particular module as well. Next, we have the invoice data capture module, which utilizes RPA bots. RPA primarily is robotic process automation, to capture all the invoice related data regardless of the format received from, let's say, vendors or their suppliers. What we use over here to extract information from these invoices is our proprietary solution. We also call it as Invoman. We've built this particular solution based on advanced OCR capabilities. Having said that, we'll also take a look at the function of Invoman in much detail at the end of this particular presentation. Next, we have the invoice data capture module, which utilizes RPA bots to primarily capture all the invoice data, regardless of format received from your vendors or suppliers. We typically use Invoman, which is also a proprietary solution for invoice processing. It also has advanced OCR capabilities built in. We'll also take a look at Invoman's capabilities in detail in the video, which we will run at the end of this session. Moving on, we also have invoice matching module, which again uses advanced robotics to remove all the manual elements from invoice matching, thus delivering a completely error-free and a highly efficient way to process invoices. Then we have the invoice approval workflow, which can work with multiple verifiers and approvals. Invoices can be easily routed for approvals, automated emails can be sent out. It can also be followed by some additional reminders. Additionally, the invoice approval workflow also reduces the time required for a given approval, ensuring minimal process delays. Well, next, I would like to talk about the vendor management portal, which is again a clear innovation. It gives digitized access to suppliers so that they get to see the current state of their invoices and also help suppliers interface and interact with buyers. Well, one of the other key aspects of P2P framework is the built-in real-time analytics, which actually gives finance leaders full control and visibility over the entire P2P process, which further leads to better decision-making with the information which is presented in real time. With the live process maps, business owners can get full visibility of their entire P2P process. Lastly, I would very quickly want to talk about the integration capabilities which are built into this particular framework. It basically ensures that this framework can be easily integrated with major finance systems, databases, ERP systems, so on and so forth, using REST APIs. So the workflow platform is BPM 2.0 compliant platform with ProcessMaker 4 as its core engine. It makes implementation of the framework simple and pretty much stress-free. There is also no need to tie up with existing or any additional large project teams for longer periods of time. To complete the P2P process can be delivered using best practices with multiple applications, including ERP systems, core accounting applications, financial backends, so on and so forth. The P2P framework also adds a range of deep configurations and integration options with minimal custom development. One of the other important aspects about the framework is its RPA and OCR capabilities, which typically automates and replicates a lot of otherwise tasks which would have been manual work. Also, the intelligent OCR powered by Invoman, which is again our proprietary OCR solution, which enables all types of invoices to be processed with minimalistic human intervention. Well, with that said, let's quickly take a look at the demo. Without any further ado, let's take a look at the Procure-to-Pay automation solution. This video demonstrates Procure-to-Pay automation using Parametrics P2p Framework, powered by ProcessMaker 4.0, Intelligent OCR, and Robotic Process Automation. So we have a ProcessMaker workflow in front of us, which is primarily responsible for orchestrating the entire P2P workflow automation. As shown in the BPM diagram, this workflow has 3 swim lanes, which represent different participants in a business collaboration. So let's take a look at P2P automation and let's see how it works. So for the purpose of this demonstration, let's log into ProcessMaker 4.0 and create a new P2P request. So we are manually going to fill user details, but having said that, we can very well go ahead and avoid this by integrating ProcessMaker with Active Directory, where details will be auto-populated based on the login user. Right now, what we see, there is a specific user which is actually putting in these particular values. Well, again, these values can be pulled out from the underlying application itself, but as for the purpose of this particular demonstration, we are adding some sample values over here. So now we have our procurement request ready, and the moment we submit it, the request will be shared with the approval authority, which in this case is the P2P manager. So let's quickly log out from this particular user and log in as the approval authority. Now that we've logged in through the P2P manager, we'll have to go ahead and approve the request which was initially raised. So as this particular request is approved, ProcessMaker dynamically creates a CSV file, which contains all the details which were initially filled by a P2P user whilst creating this request. It simultaneously also triggers the underlying bots to execute the further course of action. Let's take a look at the CSV file, and here we have it. So let's take a look at the RPA bots in action. Well, okay, the first microbot has started its execution. The user inputs will be passed to the purchase requisition bot to create a purchase requisition in SAP with zero human intervention. With the purchase requisition successfully created, P2p Framework triggers a subsequent microbot to create an RFQ for a group of vendors who in turn will quote their prices. So whilst the RFQs are being generated, we can also see the bot execution in progress in the right-hand side corner. Now that the purchase requisition and RFQ tasks are successfully completed, P2p framework now triggers the next microbot to compare the vendor quotes and select the lowest quotation in SAP. So for this purpose of this demonstration, we have the vendor quotes already maintained in SAP, which the microbot compares and identifies the lowest quotation. And these details are again shared back to the relevant stakeholders through ProcessMaker. However, having said that, the vendors can also use the vendor portal, which we spoke about some time back, which is also an additional component of P2p framework, which gives digitized access to be it suppliers or vendors to manage their own invoices as well. All right, then, with all the previous steps successfully completed, the framework now triggers the microbot, which is responsible for creating a purchase order in SAP. The microbot creates a PO based on the user inputs and dynamically generated goods receipt for the respective purchase order. So now let's take a look at how invoices are processed in background using Parametrics Intelligent Invoice Management Solution, also known as InvoMan. So we have a few sample invoices, and the data from these invoices can be extracted in seconds using InvoMan's intelligent OCR capabilities. In fact, we can see the speed at which the data is processed. Also, this data is further processed using P2p Framework's proprietary ML models, which gives complete bird's eye view of all the invoices processed by InvoMan. All right, so now on the completion of all the underlying tasks, P2p Framework initiates Microbot to sign out from the SAP console and also share the purchase orders with shortlisted vendors based on the lowest quotation. Well, before we conclude this demo, let's take a look at few notifications which were sent by the P2p Framework during the course of this demo. All these emails are shared as notifications on their completion of various process stages. All right, then I'll pass it back to Matt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rahul, and thank you for all the panelists on today's webinar. Now we're going to open it up for any questions that anyone in the audience may have. Just use the Zoom function to submit your question. Any questions we can't get to on today's webinar, we will be sure to get to. Just feel free to send them to marketing@processmaker.com. First question, yes, we will be providing a recording of today's webinar. Everyone who registered for it will receive a follow-up email this afternoon. So yes. No problem, thank you. So if
anyone in the audience has a question specific to the demo, feel free to submit them in the Zoom tab. We have our first question um, about the Excel files. So I think the clarification here was the Excel file filled with RPA or using RPA? So Rahul, maybe you want to take that one?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, indeed, the CSV file which was generated, that was created by the microbots, which were built on the RPA platform. So you're right there.
Thanks, Rahul.
So I see a question in the chat window as well. It says, you need an indirect access license for integrating into SAP. But there are two ways to address this particular question. There are two ways in which integrations can take place, whether it is SAP or any other ERP or any other application for that matter. The first one is, yes, indeed, if there are indirect access licenses available, then that would be the ideal way to connect to applications, because that's the way, that's ideally the best way to connect to applications. That's a formal way to connect to applications. Having said that, in many cases, what happens is either the licenses are not available, or they are too expensive, or the application is such that it does not lend itself easily to indirect access, or APIs are simply not available. But the good news in this particular case is that this is exactly the kind of scenario where RPA comes into play and is able to work as a layer which helps integrate with that particular application. So even without indirect access licenses, even without APIs being made available, be it SAP, be it Sun Microsystems, Sun Financials, or let's say Oracle, or any of the other, let's say it's a homegrown traditional legacy ERP that you're running, any of these, we would be able to integrate with. It's not just about the financial ERPs. It's not just about ERPs. There could be an application that a particular organization is using, which helps manage its vendors. And that particular application could be legacy, it could be something that's out of a box. And again, these are options available for us to be able to integrate with those applications as well.
Thank you, Sriram.
There is another question in the chat section of the session about the potential integration with iValua, a sort of another platform that enables integrations. And from the ProcessMaker side, our connectors package relies heavily on REST API, on the REST API layer to enable this type of connections. Therefore, it would be a matter of prospecting the right endpoints available on any other platform to understand whether what elements and resources can be tapped in order to be consumed by the ProcessMaker solution. So a broad answer to that question would be yes, it would need to be verified and understood in the sense of what specific information is being produced by the iValua platform.
Thank you, Freddie. give it another minute here just to allow the audience to submit any questions. All right. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, and thank you for all the panelists. As I said earlier, we will be sending a recording of today's webinar this afternoon, so you'll definitely have a recording. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and have a good day.
Oh, 1 second. I think there is another question.
Oh, just in time.
Oh,
Right. Okay, so I think the question is how exactly does ProcessMaker analyze invoice, and how does it figure out how it is related to which vendor? Okay, so here's where the intelligent OCR engine comes in. So the Invoman component that we mentioned is built with intelligent OCR that reads invoices, understands the name of the vendor or the supplier, and inputs that into the ecosystem. So that's something that happens in an automated manner.
so the next follow-up to that is, how does ProcessMaker tackle multiple invoice formats? Is
Perfect.
there...
Rahul, I think this is right up your alley.
Certainly, Sriram, and I think that's where we've actually built in a completely intelligent algorithms over there, which actually manages different invoices and the formats as well. It can be trained to probably read multiple types of invoices and pull out relevant data from that. So yeah, I mean the underlying OCR engine can be trained to identify different types of invoices pretty seamlessly. Well, at this point in time, we do have a couple of algorithms in place, which actually help, kind of pulling out different kind of data based on the language, based on the format in which the invoices would be typically shared.
So just to follow up on that, so some of the tools that we use, like Google Vision API, for instance, it can actually read word to word and then actually discern. So you don't really have to earmark areas stating that this is where the date field comes in and this is where the name of the vendor comes in. As it reads the label or the title, and then following that, whatever is the text that is entered is understood to be relating to that label. So that way you have a fairly unlimited number of formats that can actually be read and understood by the OCR engine.
Thanks, Sriram. Just one more follow-up question on OCR.
So that's primarily where we've actually introduced a manual gate as well, because we all know that there could be probably sub-discrepancies and exceptions in validating invoices. So as we showed in the demo itself, we also have a manual gate where, let's say, a service engineer or an operator can actually verify a particular invoice and the data which has been extracted and process it accordingly. Based on the requirement, we can certainly fine-tune this particular process and ensure that there are no gaps in there is no errors which typically occur during the identification stage.
So the OCR engine, it also provides a confidence level for each invoice, and based on the confidence level, the machine learning algorithm, it actually takes a decision: is this a straight through case, or is this a case that has to be eyeballed? And then accordingly, it goes into that particular branch of the workflow.
Excellent. Thank you, Sriram. Thank you, Rahul. We have one couple more questions. How does it integrate with other systems via API or via CSV files?
Right.
So
So
we have,
sorry,
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Right. So we have options to kind of consume data via APIs. I think that's a pretty much a straightforward way to do that. But this particular solution, what we've tried to do is integrate with underlying applications which not necessarily have APIs. We all know that all the leading platforms do expose their APIs, be it at a certain price. But nevertheless, there could be some legacy systems being used in certain organizations, certain geographies, which may not necessarily expose their underlying APIs. And that's where we actually bring in a lot of robotics capabilities to have this particular information pulled and pushed, from these underlying applications, be it the ERP systems, finance applications, so on and so forth.
So, follow up question to that is if I understand correctly, it integrates via microbot.
That's right. So the way we've actually designed this solution is ProcessMaker primarily acts as an orchestrator, and that's one of its inherent capabilities, and that's where we have kind of utilized this particular capability of ProcessMaker to call out different parts, different processes, different microbots, as we call them, at in each stage of a particular process. So let's say at stage one, if there is a particular bot which has been assigned for that particular activity, ProcessMaker basically orchestrates this particular bot by sending out a REST API call to that underlying microbot to perform that particular action.
To answer the questions relating to the confidence level, it's the machine learning algorithm, the OCR engine, that actually does calculate the confidence level. It's not ProcessMaker which does that. And you also mentioned there is another question about organization's details changing and how does that get modified. These are exception processes, and these will have to be flagged off as exceptions and handled manually. Having said that, if this is a regular occurrence and there needs to be a process built around that, then we can obviously explore that option as well.
From a larger or a higher level response to that question, ProcessMaker would enable, with the right permissions, for users to interact with the data, creating these change requests and keeping track of them so that at a further date, the specific organization details can be supervised as well as checked for transparency matters. So any changes in data would be tracked and logged as needed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Freddie.
Any other questions? Feel free to submit them through the Q&A tab in Zoom. Give it just another minute here. Looks like we have one more question. I guess not. Okay. So the next question is microbot is the one that pushes and pulls, right?
As part of this particular demonstration, yes, that's how we've actually integrated with SAP. We've not consumed the APIs which are predominantly exposed by an application like SAP. But for this particular demo, we've used different microbots for pulling and pushing out data.
And a follow up to that is that like a scheduler or an AI?
Well, these bots are primarily triggered by ProcessMaker. That's where I mentioned some time back that ProcessMaker basically acts as an orchestrator to execute different parts of this particular process based on the underlying rules and rules put into this particular solution. So, for example, if a purchase order needs to be created in SAP at a particular point, ProcessMaker will basically trigger a microbot which is responsible for that particular action. And that's how an order is basically created into SAP.
Thanks, Rahul. Just give it another minute here. The next question is, do you have a UiPath based demo? So I'm fairly sure we're using automation anywhere in this demo. Is that right?
That's correct. So while we've used automation anywhere for this particular demo, we definitely have similar and deep enough skills with UiPath as well. We don't have a ready demo at the moment, but it's only a matter of using one platform vis-a-vis another. We definitely can build it on UiPath as well.
Thank you, Sriram. We'll just give it another minute here for questions. And like I said earlier, if we don't get to any questions during the webinar, feel free to send them to marketing@processmaker.com and we'll be sure to follow up. All right. I want to thank all the panelists today and thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you,
very
Matt.
much.
Thanks, Ray, Rahul.